And like, how did the conversation come up where it's like, hey, Nick, why don't you come on tour with us? And you're 15. Or did you like beg them to go on tour?
Well, it started with, we were doing charity shows. And so like that was just kind of, 3-4 songs. Hey, do you want to do it? You play drums kind of thing. Like, it wasn't a big deal. We would do like maybe like In the Air Tonight, Easy Lover, like Take Me Home, like, a few basic songs. And then we did, like, that led to when we did the US Open, when my dad got asked to like do the opening ceremony for that.
Yeah.
And then from there, he had kind of had a feel. We'd played probably 3 different charity shows plus the US Open. So I think he started getting the feel for going back on the road a little bit. And he just asked me, he's like, hey, I'm thinking of going back on the road. Do you want to play drums? And I'm like, dude, do I want to play drums? I was so excited, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like, I don't know, maybe like, after the first leg, it's like, they give me like a contract, or they give me like my per diem. I'm like, I'm getting paid for this too? I'm like, no way. Like, I was so happy and excited. And then that just kind of, with the Genesis thing, kind of naturally progressed. But that was also based on, Mike and Tony had been to a few shows, so they had, they had seen it. They'd seen me playing, and they were like, "Hey, this could work." And I think that's kind of what sold my dad on the idea. But that was, the initial conversations that could be like traced to like late 2018, when it was first started like brought up, where Mike was like, "Hey, to my dad, like, we should go back on the road." And but yeah, it was totally organic, which was cool. But it was kind of like a domino effect. Like, one thing led to the next kind of happening.
Yeah. I remember that, like, the first time, like when I was 16 or 17, I got asked to play with this band, and the band was playing bigger shows. And so my first gig with them was like in front of probably 5,000 people outside, which is probably nothing for you. But I just remember walking out and seeing the sea of people, and that's all I remember from the show. Like,
Really?
everything else, I can't even recall to this day. So when you walked out on the stage for one of those first shows where there's like that sea of people, like, do you remember everything? Was it recorded? Or?
Well, the charity shows were super low key, super chill, so that wasn't really that big of like a thing, But when we did a warm up show in Liverpool to play at the Albert Hall, which was funny. We did it it was a small arena, but we did an arena show to warm up for a theater. Made no sense, but that I was like, usually I'm pretty good about. Like, when I get nervous before shows, it's usually with my band, because it's about production and sound and turnout and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Whereas with this was more like, I just have to worry about the drumming, and that was like, I was like so nervous, because now it's like for real. Like, you've been rehearsing it and you've been talking about it for so long, and now's the first time where there's actually an audience. So yeah, I was terrified, like that first show. But then, now that I think about it, I remember before the show, I remember after the show. Don't really remember much during it, but I think that could also be because a lot of them mesh together when you're doing the same set.
Yeah.
So but yeah, that I remember being nervous. I remember being really nervous for the first Genesis show, because it was also this weird thing of like, it was the first time there was crowds in an arena in like 2 years, and it was just like, it was like really emotional. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe we're finally doing this after postponing, and now you finally get to play shows. But yeah, the first show I was totally nervous.
Yeah. It's been so scary. It's like a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
Especially with like such a legendary band.
Yeah, and the first fill was against all odds. You know what I mean? So it was that first thing.
Yeah.
It was a big like shadows, and I was just like, all I needed was to like, drop a stick, right?
Yeah.
Like, first song in or something. Like,
Talk about pressure.
We had some, like a couple episodes ago, we were talking about Taylor Hawkins' son, who is he 12 or 15?
I think he's 16.
16. And so we were talking about should he go on the road, should he get the gig with Foo Fighters or whatever. But that's just to think, like, that's the age that Nick was when he started. And so my feelings there were probably too young, because a lot of crazy stuff can happen on the road, and you can be exposed to a lot of things that can't really be controlled by the parents, and just a lot of inconsistency in schedule. So did you find like your education was good, and your exposure to like, what, illegal drugs and this kind of stuff? You never got involved?
No, I mean, honestly, I mean, like, I was on tour with older people, so you know what I mean. The scene wasn't really like, there wasn't any kind of any of that going on.
Okay.
So I didn't have anything to deal with when it comes to that. Obviously, it's different, if you're talking about a band like, for like the Foo Fighters, let alone them, but like, you've got support acts who are coming on. It's like, it's a different kind of energy and vibe.
Totally,
But no, like, it was pretty chill. Like the obviously the band was super normal, and I think a lot of that, everybody in that band has kind of had their own thing. So now it's like a very clean, very straight straightforward band. There's not much kind of like going on really. But as far as like, school and stuff and friends, it was like, I mean, my close friends didn't matter like that. It was totally normal. But with school, the first leg, I kind of left early from the end of my junior year in high school. And so that was a bit weird, like, but at least for that, I'd kind of finish all my assignments. But the next year was when it was like in the middle of like school. And then all of a sudden you go back and you've just been playing all these shows and having the great time. And now you're like, oh, I gotta do math now. Like, it's just like, it was the worst. But my teachers and, they were super understanding and they were pretty supportive about it. I mean, most of them, some of them, there's, music, so they kind of like scoff at it. But for the most part, everybody was, pretty cool about me going out. And but it does kind of change your perspective on like, how much effort you want to put into school, because you're like, dude, but I'm doing like, I don't want to go back into a classroom, but like, you also have to, at that point you're a senior in high school and it's like you just have to man up and push till the end, and then there you go.
Yeah, interesting. For those that are just listening maybe to the podcast, not seeing it, you got to see this kit. That Nic is sitting behind, and we're actually doing just a more normal Drumeo stream later on
Thursday.
This week. So a few days from now, where Nic is going to be performing a ton and talking about
Genesis grooves,
the grooves, and giving some lessons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So are you going to can you just talk about this drum set? For a minute?
It's kind of my dad's specs, I guess, size-wise, all concert tom. It's a white kit, which is the same finish I was using on his solo tour. But to me, I've always thought that these concert tom kits, like, you can't do anything fancy. It's like black, white, gray, or like natural kind of wood. Like, you can't really get to, because then it just looks strange. But yeah, it's 8, 10, 12, 15, 16, 18, all single-headed. And it sounds great. I mean, it's like easier to tune.
Yeah, it's half the lug.
Yeah. My tuning skills go as far as this. You put a double,
all
like
you
a
need.
bottom head, I'm like, oh God, but yeah, no, it's a 20-inch kick, which is pretty small, but like, when we were playing that first tour for the more kind of poppy stuff, you needed that kind of attack and impact.
Yeah.
And with all the subs, it just feels the same now. It's more when you don't have any subs where it feels really small compared to like a 22 or a 24.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, my setup is a bit different. It's the same configuration, but a bit different to the way my dad had his setup. Because as Brandon knows, I don't know how he played that setup for as long as he did.
It's absurd.
I sat down. I'm like, dude, like, I don't even know where to start. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, same kind of, Gretsch USA custom, same sizes, and kind of ballpark same cymbal configuration, just different cymbals and setup.
Yeah. I was gonna say, do you want to just go through and like hit each one of the toms?
Yeah. So the 8 and 10 are a bit more like, kind of hit them with rim shots, because that's kind of part of the sound. And the rest you can kind of play as like normal toms. Not much resonance in it, but that's kind of part of the sound. And obviously, some of the songs that we were doing, like, you kind of had to play a concert tom kit. Playing a song like In the Air Tonight, obviously, it's just like didn't feel right. Even when you're at home, it's like I don't even want to play it if it's on a double-headed kit. So it's definitely part of the sound. I mean, when I'm at home playing with my band or doing whatever, I have a bit of kind of a combination. I have mainly double-headed toms, but I'll throw like 2 concert toms in as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's super distinct sound, not much resonance, but very loud. Just naturally without it being mic'd up. But no, it's great. It sounds great, but it is a kind of a bit of a different approach. I mean, more near the top. Like the bottom is just you just play them like normal toms.
Yeah. Nice. Brandon, I could just keep talking. So
I know.
We should.
We're just gonna
I have
give-
like a million more questions.
We're gonna give everything away. We have some pictures from when we were in Switzerland. So we spent.
Is this going to be you and Nic?
Yeah, exactly. No, we got some good ones. We'll show you the castle that we were in first. So if you want to bring up that first photo. So, like Nic, when you did you know where this place was when you showed up the first time? Or had you seen it?
I'd seen it because I knew the area, but I only knew the area once I showed up there. I mean, like, the place we were in, Vevey, like, rang a bell. and I knew that I'd probably been there, but it wasn't until we actually got there I was like, oh no, I totally have been here before. I'd never been in the castle, but you kind of know the area a little bit. It was great. It looked awesome, and you know, really nice, just vibe of like obviously the people who ran the place. They were super nice.
Yeah,
and
they
sweet.
were great.
Yeah. Well, you guys were only using like a small portion of it, right?
Yeah, I think it was like 4 floors, and we were pretty much just on, I guess it was the 2nd floor.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was built in like 1846. That's what she said. So, and then it was all restored. But yeah, just like a beautiful venue. Let's go to what do we have next? Okay.
Ooh, there's Ross. Look at you.
There's Ross, the boss man.
Yeah. Ross is behind the camera, by the way. Shout out to Ross.
So here, this is pretty much like the main set you and your dad were on, and you went through a bunch of, like pretty much your dad's career, talking about a bunch of different things about music and drumming. Like, what was that like for you, like being able to ask him all those questions?
Yeah, there's some, you know, here and there where, especially preparing for the tour, like you ask him a few things, and so the same kind of questions may have come up just because I thought they were super like insightful for what we were doing. But to just kind of like have him there for that long, just, you know, going full throttle, asking him just all these drum nerd questions, some of which, like some of the stuff he just didn't remember. You know what I mean? He's like, dude, I don't know why you're asking me what I did in 1973. He's like, I don't remember what I did. But it was awesome, man. Like to, you know, obviously that this is such a big part of like, you know, my dad and I's relationship is just bonding over drums. But that was just kind of being able to just look back over and actually listen to the songs. Because a lot of the times, like, you know, my dad's not the kind of person who sits at home and listens to his own music. You know, I mean, he doesn't really listen to music at all, let alone his own stuff. So, you know, when I had conversations with him, it's very kind of like sometimes you'd pull something up, but I'm just asking him random questions. He's like, I don't know, I'd have to hear it. So this was the first time where like we actually were listening to the songs, talking about parts, and some stories that I'd never heard before, which were just great to just be able to see him reminisce. And I mean, it must be kind of a trip for him to like now go back. And I remember we started and it was like he just came out with like a 30-minute story first song. It was like, geez, and I'd never heard that. So it was like it was really cool to, you know, learn some new stuff and obviously just have some stories that I know that we, you know, got on camera. And so it was a really cool experience to share with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember like he showed up and we were starting like some of the earliest songs. And it was 30 minutes of just this whole backstory about how this thing came to be. And like, I would never remember that, like in that kind of detail. But what do we have next? So Nick, he might be pointing at you or pointing at Victor. I can't tell, but yeah, we printed like a bunch of photos of different things, which you'll get to see when it comes out, but kind of getting reactions to different things from back in the day. So I think that was one of them there. What do we have next?
Oh, wow. That's a cool.
Album dropping soon.
Yeah. It's like new mixtape. You can see the kit in the background.
Which kit was this specifically?
It was the it was the kit he used on the 2007 reunion tour.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure we confirmed that he also used that in 1990 or 1992 on the last Genesis tour before he left.
Yeah.
It could have honestly been used on his own tour a bit earlier as well. We're not sure, but it had like the kind of old school badge.
Yeah.
And old road cases and stuff. But yeah, I mean, we kind of got in the ballpark configuration wise. Like, you know, he sat down and he's like, you know, some could do with some work, you know. Like, I don't think we get hired on a permanent basis. No. You know what I mean?
Pud keeps his job.
Yeah, exactly. You know, job security. Like, he probably like, you know, screwed us over with what was on the list or something.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, no, it was, you know, kind of had everything set up that way. And since a lot of it was kind of memory locked, being able to sit, I mean, I'd done it a few times, but it was a long time ago, to actually sit behind the same way he, for the most part, kind of had it set up was super weird. Like, you know, obviously the fact that it's a lefty kit was one thing, but also just like the way everything was set up. And I play a similar kit, well, the same kit, but I set it up kind of my own way that's comfortable for me. So to see it that way was just like, it was just crazy. Like, it was really weird, but also kind of, you know, really interesting to see how he was playing some of these fills and how he was reaching certain parts. And some of the really old hardware he had, like he's still, still using a Speed King, old Slingerland like hi-hat stand.
Yeah.
It was cool, but it's just, you can tell that like, he was a creature of habit. Whatever was working for him in like 1978 is, the same hardware that he kept using until the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of came up a few times because we asked about setup and all that, and he kind of just said, that's what I always did, and didn't really think too much about it. Where I know like us as drummers, we just geek out about like, why is the tom like slightly tilted, and what's the deal with this boom arm, and why does he have it there? But I mean, for most of those drummers, it's what you do.
Just place it and go.
Yeah.
It's about the music.
Exactly.
Really thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's next? The whole crew. So this was the entire team that we had in Switzerland. So we have Josh, who's in the control room right now on the far left, doing all the behind the scenes and photography and some audio. Then we had Maritza, who managed the chateau. And it was funny, she didn't actually believe that you guys were coming until the flight cases showed up.
Oh, really?
She's like, oh, like, this is real.
What did she think it was?
Well, like, she didn't really believe, like, your dad was going to be there.
She was just glad you guys were renting out the space.
Exactly. And then the flight case had, I think there's a photo coming up, but it had your dad's name on it. And she's like, oh.
It's real.
It's real. So that was Maritza, and then Christy did our set design. Victor on the right of me, who did cameras. Then we had Lindsay, who I don't know what her official job title would be.
I guess she's my dad's assistant. Would be she started off as my brother and I's nanny.
Okay.
And now she basically does every job that there is to do. You know what I mean? Like goes from being my dad's assistant to still our nanny to cook to, tax advisor, whatever it is that you need, any sort of like anything, you just go to Lindsay, and she's great. She's been around since my brother was born, so she's been with us for like 17, almost 18 years.
Wow. Cool. And who else do we have? Ross, of course, on the far right, and then Nick and your dad to your right. So yeah, that was the whole team, and we were there for a week. What do we have next? Yes. I think Josh took this picture. You guys were doing, nice. We were just doing a bunch of signings with you and your dad, and I think Josh said, you just got to hold the album in front of your face and take the picture. So.
And I don't think my dad had ever done that.
Yeah, that's what he said.
I mean, I did it on that first day when we were just like getting some B-roll. I was just like, had to. Just like, you hold the record up. It's, gotta have a lot of confidence to put your face on your first solo album, just straight on, like,
Such a close-up.
Yeah.
We were looking at some of those old drum kit pictures, and your dad you made fun of him. He was wearing like the Genesis t-shirt in like 72. You're like, why would you wear your own t-shirt?
But it's kind of a power move.
Exactly.
Now I was like, dude, we're shooting. I'm 100% gonna wear my own band's shirt. Are you kidding me?
I think you wore yours on the plane. So.
But what was funny is he would never do that now. You know what I mean? Like any sort of like, tour merch. Like I take it all. I'm like, this is awesome, and I love wearing that stuff. But, to see him in like a Genesis tee back in the early 70s compared to like, the fact that I know for a fact he would never wear something like that now is just really funny.
So good. What's next? There's a few more, I think. Those are the flight cases. So I guess that's when the venue realized it was happening. And I think we saw a photo too of, I think it was the 90s, that whatever tour that was, and you could see it in the background, and it was like brand new, bright orange. And now they're just like
now they're just worn,
beat up and brown.
Yeah. Super cool.
Nice. A few more here. Here's the kit.
Wow. So that's a 15-inch tom there, the same as this. Hey?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, I don't know what made him like, land on that size specifically.
Right.
He didn't really, when we asked him, he's just like, oh, just what I chose, as opposed to instead of 14, which would make, 8, 10, 12, 14 would be the logical thing.
Right.
It's definitely harder to get heads for a 15.
Yeah.
So, no, yeah, I don't know what, but when you actually go through it, like obviously his signature 80s sound was with the concert tom kit, but you went back, we went back through all of his old kits, and he had pretty normal setups, you know what I mean? We're like a 12, 13, and then 16, or even before when you're just having, one rack, one floor, and that was it. So, I don't know what kind of made him land on that, and why maybe he started playing concert toms. I mean, it was, he kind of seemed to say that it was, easier to tune.
Yeah, and they were louder.
And louder.
One of my favorite stories just around gear that he told was there was these old drum kits he had, like a 60s round badge or something. And in the first photo, it's just like a natural wood. And it's like, oh, I guess you bought it like that. And then in the next year, it has like this stainless steel or like dark gray finish. And then the next year, it's white. It's like, oh yeah, I would just rip the wrap off and tape some new wrap on.
Same kit, and now I'm like, wow, cost efficient,
Exactly.
Like, I could start doing that instead of getting a new kit whenever you just keep rewrapping
Rip it
the
off.
same
Yeah,
thing.
totally.
I thought that was pretty good.
That's cool.
Do we have a photo of the backside of the kit?
Oh,
There
cool.
we go. So you can see the Speed King on there with, you can't really see the beater, but like it was like part felt and
Yeah.
like wood on the other side.
I think it was leather, and then there was like this fluff kind of,
Yeah.
like toilet brush kind of thing.
Right.
But he said that he used the leather, which was kind of strange because the one with like all the fluff seemed kind of used.
Yeah.
So I assumed that was what he was gonna, the main side that he was using. But no, I mean, and speaking, we had this whole kind of ongoing joke about like me and Brandon totally slamming the Speed King and just being like, oh, it sucks. And my dad like loves the Speed King. Like, even, I remember like one of the stories when I like the first time I got a DW 9000 double kick pedal, like I'm so excited, I took it out of the box. He's like, well, it's not a Speed King though. You know what I mean? Just like gave me a hard time. Yeah, gave me a hard time that it wasn't
Yeah.
a Speed King.
Yeah.
You gotta tell us about the throne too, because that was one of the craziest parts
Oh yeah,
of
it's
the
like
kit.
two. I mean, it was three-legged, but it was just like the pole of what you're sitting on, all the way down, and then just two legs connected to it. So that's what made the three kind of legs, and one of them was just what he was sitting. I mean, like, one wrong kind of movement and you're falling off. Tiny actual seat.
And you couldn't even, there wasn't even a wing nut. Like you could just lift the seat off the post.
And that's
Kind of
just,
moving and
that was
shit.
just fine. He kind of liked the wiggle.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, but like now I'm just like, in retrospect, obviously at the time he probably didn't know, but like, with the back issues that he's had since, it's like totally makes sense. When
Right.
you look at the kit, just the way it was, and even like the snare, I don't know if you could really tell on the picture, but the snare and the hi-hat were so close together, and the snare was slanted, and it could have actually been more slanted when he was playing, because I don't think we put it all the way.
Yeah.
But to where the seat was surprisingly high, so to actually get a rim shot, you kind of really have to lean forward.
Yeah, and that shoulder goes down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I mean, his hi-hat hand, which I guess is his left, almost a lot of time rested on his leg. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a weird setup, but at the time, I think for most drummers at the time, like you just did what you did, and
Yeah.
it wasn't like now where there's a bit more of a conscious effort in like making it ergonomic or whatever, and making it a bit more better for you, and a bit more emphasis on like technique and posture and stuff.
And even on like your concert toms, like you can still like play on top if you want, but on his kit, it's like you had to like lean in, and the toms were pretty much flat.
Oh yeah.
So like you would have to arch your back to play it. So
Yeah, and it was just weird because like I'd obviously seen pictures of the kit before, and that was like when I first started playing concert tom kits, that was kind of the reference of how to set it up and get what in the right place. But even like to really understand how that was set up, you just had to sit behind it, because visually it kind of looks the same to this, but it's like polar opposite. Like it was just sitting behind there, like it's a kit that I had played, but just felt completely foreign to me.
yeah.
Just on this note, a few people were asking questions. Pickle from Drumeo says, it's a 14-inch snare or is it a 13?
14, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it looks like a 14.
Yeah. But it's, piccolo, so it's much more like shallow.
And the preferred snare, like what is the snare on that kit? Is it just like a normal like wooden snare, or
It's
is
a
it?
Noble and Cooley piccolo snare. I don't know what
I think it was a
wood or...
What was it, 14 by 4? I think
it's
it's
probably
like,
maple then, hey?
yeah, I thought he has like a signature.
Yeah, he
model
does.
or something.
Yeah, he does. So I don't know what wood or what
Yeah.
ply, but it's always he's always used the kind of much shallower kind of snare. Whereas like when I like a kind of a deeper snare to get a bit more kind of beef and stuff into it, and also like when it's such a thin snare, it's kind of hard to dial in the mics and the ears, because sometimes when it's so thin, you just kind of like it gets a bit tinny and not as much kind of substance.
Yeah.
But he had that, like, I mean, he had a lot of Noble and Cooley snares, and he still has some at his house, like down in the basement, like a collection of kind of old snares. Cool. But he's just loved Noble and Cooley.
They're great drums.
Oh, yeah.
All handmade. A lot of the drums, they're just shooting up in value now because they're really rare. They didn't make a lot.
And it's still like, family run. They make, like, there's no factory. They're hand making every single drum set that they do. And I'm pretty sure they're painting it.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yes, I can't wait to play it.
But they're great people. I got to meet them when we played in Boston. And like I was so surprised that like it was just it's still like father and son kind of just doing it, and but yeah, great drums honestly. And we had the whole joke because Noble and Cooley, it's on the side the NC, so we had this whole joke that it was my own branded snare drum.
Years before. Nice. Are there any other photos, or is that the last one? Oh, 3 of us by the kit.
It's a cool shot.
I think it's so cool just to see your dad buy that kit again.
I don't remember the last time he'd, been around it or sat behind it, because not to give much away, but we got him to sit there and just don't remember the last time he's done that.
Yeah. By the way, Tyson is in the chat. So he says it's a 4x14 solid maple shell. So I believe it's steam bent, right?
Nice.
Am I right? Is Tyson in there?
Tyson will know.
I have no idea. I just play it.
It has my name on it, so that's all that matters.
Signature model, man.
Nice.
Back to you. Like, how did you learn? Like, your dad's presumably not giving you lessons, but maybe he did, or
it was never like lessons. It was not like we're gonna sit you down once or twice a week and do it. Like some of my earliest memories was going on the road for his final farewell tour as a kid. So from a young age, I was exposed to it, and I just I was so like in love with the idea of performing and obviously seeing a crowd's reaction to him. That's what drove me to want to play it. But just from being around the kit as a baby, he'd like sit me on his lap and just let me kind of tap around. And then I finally got my own drum set, and for the first few days of me getting it, I was just like, like I played it with the first day I got it, but for the a few days after, I just like looked at it. I was so excited I had a drum set. I didn't even want to play it. I was just, but yeah, I just did it all the time, like 24/7. I was just messing around. And he did give me a few we called them secret number something. So it was like secret number 1, secret number 2.
Okay.
And there'd be something like, one of them is keeping the kick drum going during a fill, or keeping the hi-hat going when you're playing a groove with either the ride or the toms when you're not using the hi-hat. And that was just our way of kind of remembering them. But
are you going to film videos on those? Nic Collins secrets?
We should.
I mean, that would make a great little videos, right?
We may include some of those early videos.
Yeah.
In the final thing, but
yeah, but it was, it was never forced. Like, you know what I mean? Like and it was never. It never felt like a burden, like, oh my God, here we're doing lessons. You know what I mean? He was super natural and let me kind of do my own thing. And it was as I got older, he just really let me just find my own way, which drummers I liked and what music I was into. So, I mean, obviously, like every now and then he'd give me pointers if he came to a show or if I asked him for advice. And obviously on his tours, it was like if something wasn't good or something needed to be fixed, he'd tell me. But no, he was never like super intense about giving me lessons, and it was very kind of self-taught at the beginning, which I think sometimes like when you're a kid, it's kind of nice to be self-taught because you're doing it for fun. And then like as you get more serious, that's when I got a teacher when I moved to Miami, and now I was like focused on technique and rudiments and stuff like that. But at the beginning, I think there's a lot of kids who right out of the gates, it's like you're taking these lessons and now it's not fun because the reason I think a lot of kids gravitate towards drumming is because it's fun. You get to hit things and it's loud, and And when all of a sudden now you're taking such a studious approach at such a young age, it can ruin or like that relationship that you have with drumming. And I mean with any instrument, I'm sure. Like, but drumming is I guess specific because it's like as we all know, it's all like such a feel-based instrument. So yeah, there was never kind of any pressure to do it, and he was never kind of like molding me to slowly become his drummer. Like that was never kind of the intention. He was just letting me do my own thing, and if I didn't want to play drums, he would have been totally fine with it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool, man. Sorry, go on.
Go ahead.
Well, no, I'm looking at these ginormous sticks behind. You were gonna go there?
I was gonna go there.
Because ProMark has sent us these sticks and other things as well, or
They did, but I don't know if where they ended up.
Okay.
We have a ProMark prize pack.
We have a ProMark prize pack. Does it include these sticks?
It does.
Okay, I thought these maybe were staying here.
We should get a pair to keep, but
These are gigantic, man. So someone from Drumeo is going to win a pair of these ProMark gigantic sticks.
with a bunch of an MT3 multi-purpose mallet, pair of hot rods, broomsticks, a stick bag, and a pair of 5A and 5Bs.
Right.
And
so
these.
There's actually an episode of Drumeo on the Road where I went to the ProMark factory in not Franklin, somewhere in Tennessee, and I looked at like the actual where they make the wood.
Yeah.
What do you call that place? A mill?
Mill, I
Yeah,
guess.
like the logs where they come
Yeah.
in and how they choose the wood and things like that. So it's quite fascinating how they, basically dry the wood to a certain amount of water, moisture content.
Yeah.
And then choose the specific types of wood out of all of the trees. It has to be like really white or whatever, to make sure that they don't break. But
So what are we gonna do to? We're gonna play a game,
yes, we're gonna see who can go the fastest.
and Nick is gonna
So
start.
you guys are
I'm
gonna try and
start. Oh no.
we're gonna see how good your technique really is.
You can hold the sticks however you want. You just have to go as fast as you can.
What, like a roll or something?
Yeah, just on.
Can you do doubles?
Sure.
Well, it depends.
Really?
I think it depends how I hold it.
I don't think he's gonna have any luck with that, but
And I guess if you break the head, you break the head.
Yeah, we've got enough, right?
that's right. Just don't
see.
let Jared hit the toms.
No, I won't hit the toms.
Shut the snares on. Single strokes, but like a double stroke. I mean, there's absolutely no technique involved. It's sheer, like, forearm strength. No, I wouldn't recommend this.
Well, come on, can you play a few signature fills with them though?
Let's put these sticks to the side.
Or like the coolest groove that you would play with those.
Yeah, you gotta give the people a little.
They want to hear it.
I give you an odd time signature. That's the most you're gonna get from me.
Nice.
But I don't know. I mean, oh, dude.
People
All
are
the
asking
hard work
for
we
it.
put into the setup, they're
Yeah.
just getting pushed miles back. There you go. That's the best I got.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
I'll give a roll another shot.
There you go.
Nice.
Pretty
That's
good.
pretty good, man. I don't know if I'm going to be any better than you.
Honestly, I mean, sitting down, it's almost harder because if you do it standing up, it's easy.
Yeah, but that's not the challenge.
Yeah.
You have to sit.
You have to sit. That's what Kyle ordered.
Kyle said you have to sit.
Yeah.
Just like you're actually
The
playing.
puppet master says you have to sit. I don't know if I can go any faster.
You got to
than
play
that.
a beat now as well.
Definitely gonna need new heads on it now.
I know.
Next, just watching.
I
his
tried
kit.
to go light on the 15.
All right, let's see.
Yeah, I realized I may have gone way too heavy when I did the fill. Like everything moved.
It's your kit.
All right. Wow,
It's like the best party trick.
Yeah.
right? Whose kid is this?
Not mine.
That's why we can't have lights on the floor.
Okay, let's see. Woo. That's hard, man.
Right?
Very difficult to play with.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so someone's gonna win these,
Someone's gonna win
and they have to post a video of themselves trying to play
once they get them. Yeah.
once they get them.
Are
Obviously.
we giving away a membership too?
Yes, we'll give a membership. For some reason, my YouTube, I'm not able to see comments on YouTube.
Oh,
I see you have it.
I do.
So, Nick, do you have a skill testing question you can give us for the members to win these sticks?
Whoa. Like, what do you mean? Like, what do they have
Like
to
a
do?
drum question, or like maybe like music history, maybe like Genesis history or
Yeah.
something.
Okay. How do we ensure they're not doing like, not a quick Google search?
I mean, it is what it is.
Depends how fast they are.
If you can name the first 5 records in chronological order.
Oh, well played.
So you're gonna have to look at the chat then. Here, let me come over. The first 5 records in chronological order.
Pez says Genesis fans go.
Rest in I don't know if they're gonna get it, man.
They have to be like a pre-Phil Collins fan.
Yeah.
From Genesis to Revelations.
Oh, you're gonna have to do it in one message. It's gonna be like, scattered throughout the whole thing.
People are Googling frantically right now. No idea. Come on!
That's a deep cut.
I think he might.
Nobody's gonna get the stick. Sorry, I should have gone.
A night at the opera, a day at the races, news of the world. No.
What if we do like Nick's favorite Genesis album?
Okay. Sure.
then
We're
just watch-
changing it.
yeah,
Changing
just
it.
watch
My
the chat.
favorite. So it's everybody who was on Google,
Yeah, you can.
you can stop now.
What is Nick's favorite Genesis album?
Well, actually, wait. The first question I asked, James F. got it.
Did you get it?
I think he did get it. James F. got
Genesis?
the first question I asked right.
We should give it to James F. then.
James F.
James F. You got it.
Nice.
Nice.
Congrats.
Well done.
Okay, but for YouTube, they're gonna have to guess your favorite Genesis
Yes.
album.
I'm watching the YouTube chat.
I don't have
I
the
guess.
chat. You have to come over here.
Do you
Yeah.
know it?
I think
don't
I
know
know.
your
I
it.
thought we had a conversation
Yeah.
about it, so you'll be able to see.
Oh, you know what?
somebody
Okay, then you're good. You're good.
said- So I stay here. Do I?
Let me just confirm it's this one.
Yeah. I think that's the safe answer.
Harry's Music Musings? Duke is the correct answer.
Nice.
Well done. Well, if you want to, actually, both of you who just won, if you want to email me, brandon@drumeo.com, I'll make sure you get set up with the membership. And then for James F., for the winner of the ProMark sticks, I'll get you all set up and get those shipped out to you. Congratulations.
These are gonna be a fortune to.
I know. Do we have budget for that?
Just one stick each.
Exactly.
We have no
We'll
budget.
saw it in half, and then you can glue them back together when they get to you. So, nice. Nick, before we go, the last thing I wanted to ask is, do you have any drum advice for all the drummers out there? Is there like one thing you've learned from like being on tour, or maybe from your dad, or like one of your drum teachers?
I mean, I think there's a few things. I think as far as like being on tour, I think the biggest thing is be reliable and be consistent. That like it's kind of basic information, but like that's more important than most things. It's just being able to be relied on, not late. You're early. You're always consistently doing it. There's there's never kind of anything getting in the way. I think that goes a long way. But then like as far as drumming goes, I just think obviously have a good time and play for the music, not for your drum part. Although I think we're all guilty of every now and then you throw something in that's just
Oh yeah.
for you. But I think for the most part, be sensitive to the music that you're playing to, and knowing what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. And that kind of goes with anything, like just being attentive to what's going on around you, whether you're writing or playing music, like if it's with people for real or if it's playing along to a record. It's just, you always got to be tapped into what everybody else is doing, not just about you. And that, I think that goes a long way when, with playing shows and bands and stuff, is people appreciate that when you're actually paying attention to what they're doing and playing off them, not necessarily doing your own thing.
Yeah. Very cool.
That's great advice.
Man, Nic, thank you for coming out here.
Thanks.
Yeah, man.
Someone
Thanks for having me.
Someone said in the chat, it's like, wow, I can't believe Nic is out at Drumeo. He seems like such a nice guy. And
That's nice.
He is a nice guy.
and you don't. Sometimes they say you don't want to meet your heroes. You don't want to, because they can be, not so nice sometimes. But you're very approachable, kind.
Thank you very much. I
and
appreciate that.
open to sharing. So.
Yeah.
For those of you who are listening to this podcast, possibly just on Apple or you're watching on YouTube, we're filming a bunch of content with Nic that's going to live inside of Drumeo. And so you can go ahead and get a Drumeo trial if you want at drumeo.com/trial. We also got to shout out Ed for the new drum department sign. Can we not? Can you get a close-up on that there,
Ed
Ron?
Coop, you are a legend. Look at that sign.
So Ed runs a business, I believe, in Southern California where he does, he can do these custom signs and like cutouts with CNC things. So Ed, you should tell us your actual company name and we can give you a shout out. And if anyone wants to get anything done with Ed, he's a drummer, he's a Drumeo student, he's been with us for many, many years, and he's just a really, really nice guy.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Ed, for doing that. He sent me, last time I was in Switzerland, actually, he printed a picture of me when I was playing right beside this river, I guess, with the Alps in the background, and I was surrounded by cows. We were playing in a farmer's field.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and the cows were very curious about the drums.
What is this?
They chime in with their bells,
Yeah, exactly.
Join in.
They're so noisy, hey?
Yeah, they really
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
You know where they are, driving or just, God forbid, living next to them. People who live up there.
Yeah,
Totally.
that's awesome. Well, we're going to be live for a few minutes inside the Drumeo members area. So all of you Drumeo students, we're just going to, I guess, fade to black, and then we'll come back up. And we'll take some questions for Nic. So you can get those submitted in the chat. Nic, thanks so much for being here. We're going to be live on Thursday at, I believe, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah.
I believe. Talking all about Genesis grooves, playing a bunch of tracks, some from your own band too, Better Strangers. So yeah, it should be a good time.
Yeah, well, thanks again for having me, and I had a great time. This is really cool and awesome questions and great answers to the trivia.
Yeah, nice. Cool.
Awesome. Thanks,
Well,
man.
We'll see you all later.
See ya.